Paradise above, pressure below. Beneath Palawan's turquoise waters lies a hidden chasm plunging 5,400 meters deep, the so-called Palawan Trench, ignored by most, but harboring the violent forces that have rewritten history in places like Japan and Indonesia. For decades, scientists have tracked countless tremors on the Pacific side. Yet, here, locked tectonic plates strain in silence, building enough energy to unleash an earthquake and tsunami within minutes of warning, right under sprawling beach resorts. The world marvels at Palawan's beauty, never suspecting a disaster zone lurks beneath. So why does everyone ignore the most dangerous piece of ground in paradise? And what happens when the silence finally breaks? 5,400 meters beneath the surface, the seafloor drops into a shadowed gulf, an immense geological scar running parallel to paradise. This is the Palawan Trench, a deep oceanic boundary where the crust of the South China Sea meets resistance and is forced downward beneath the Philippine archipelago. The process is relentless. Each year, the plates inch closer, 3 to 4 centimeters, about the width of a fingernail. On the surface, nothing betrays the strain accumulating in the rock below. But at depth, the boundary between plates is locked tight, refusing to budge. Over decades, then centuries, that resistance transforms into stored energy. The effect is like a giant spring wound, tighter and tighter, invisible, but primed to snap. Seismologists describe subduction zones as nature's most powerful earthquake factories. When the locked zone finally yields, the sudden release can dwarf anything produced by faulty faults closer to the surface. The 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake, which reached magnitude 9.1, and the 2011 Tohoku event in Japan both began with similar plate boundaries. Silent, then catastrophic. The Palawan Trench fits this pattern. A subduction interface, no major rupture in living memory, and a steady annual convergence. That silence is misleading. The longer a boundary holds, the more energy it accumulates, setting the stage for an earthquake that could reach magnitude 8.0 or higher. Bathymetric surveys reveal the trench's true scale. Its floor lies deeper than the Grand Canyon, stretching for hundreds of kilometers beneath the South China Sea. The surrounding plate is not static. GPS measurements confirm the steady creep toward the trench, each year adding another layer of tension. Unlike the Philippine Trench to the east, which regularly releases energy in moderate earthquakes, the Palawan Trench's locked section remains quiet. In geological terms, quiet does not mean safe. It means the spring is still coiling, waiting for the moment when friction gives way and the entire system lurches forward. When that happens, the energy released in seconds will have taken centuries to build. Palawan's coastline, lined with luxury resorts and small fishing villages, sits in a data void. National seismic and tsunami monitoring networks are concentrated on the country's eastern seaboard and the Manila metropolitan area. In contrast, the entire western shore of Palawan is covered by a single inland seismic station at Puerto Princesa and just one tide gauge, neither positioned for optimal tsunami detection. There are no ocean bottom sensors, no dart buoys, and no warning sirens along the busiest beaches. For a region that welcomes over 1 million tourists each year, the absence of real-time hazard monitoring is glaring. The explanation is as bureaucratic as it is economic. FIVOLCS, the nation's earthquake authority, allocates its limited budget to the most populated and historically active zones. Metro Manila, Cebu, and the eastern provinces get dense arrays of sensors and regular public drills. Palawan, classified for decades as tectonically stable, is left with the bare minimum. Official budget reports and Freedom of Information responses confirm this pattern. No expansion plans for Palawan's hazard infrastructure, no dedicated funding for tsunami education or evacuation routes in the West. Tourism leaders defend the status quo, arguing that visible warning systems could frighten visitors and damage the image of Palawan as a tranquil escape. Disaster risk messaging is carefully managed, often buried below the surface of glossy brochures. In interviews, resort owners express concern that hazard signage or regular drills would disrupt the illusion of paradise. The result is a risk that remains invisible to both tourists and many locals. Seismologists and disaster experts have raised alarms since the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, urging investment in monitoring and public education for the South China Sea coast. International organizations, including UNESCO's Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, have formally flagged the gap in coverage. Yet, recommendations are met with the same answer. Resources are limited, and priorities are set by history, not potential. The cost of inaction is measured not in budgets, but in lives and livelihoods left exposed to threats no one is watching for. A magnitude 8 earthquake ruptures offshore. In less than 2 minutes, the seafloor heaves upward, displacing millions of tons of water. The result is a tsunami wave, invisible at first, just a sudden, racing bulge in the open sea, at speeds approaching 800 kilometers per hour. The wave closes the distance between the trench and the coast with terrifying efficiency. For the western shore of Palawan, the difference between ordinary morning and catastrophe is measured in minutes. In El Nido and Coron, the clock starts the moment the fault slips. The first warning, a tremor, a shudder underfoot, arrives almost simultaneously with the wave's creation. There is no time for official alerts, no margin for hesitation. The best-case scenario gives communities 15 to 30 minutes to evacuate. In practice, with narrow roads and crowded beachfronts, the true window is even shorter. Beach resorts, packed with visitors, sit at sea level with little elevation to escape to. Fishing villages, built on stilts and sandbars, have nowhere to run except inland, through mangrove and brush. Tsunami physics are merciless. As the wave approaches shallow water, it slows and rises, transforming from a silent surge into a wall of water several meters high. The shape of Palawan's coastline, long, exposed, and dotted with low-lying communities, offers no natural defense. Disaster officers describe the evacuation challenge in blunt terms. 15 minutes to clear thousands of people from harm's way, with no warning sirens, no tested drills, and only the sound of the approaching wave to signal the end of safety. Ocean bottom sensors, the gold standard for tsunami detection, cost less than a single luxury resort expansion. Yet, not one is deployed off Palawan's west coast. Installing even a handful, networked with GES-linked tide gauges, would transform minutes of uncertainty into actionable warning. Siren systems, already standard across Japan's beaches, could broadcast alerts to every barangay and resort along the shoreline. Annual evacuation drills, mapped and rehearsed with local officials and hotel staff, would mean the difference between confusion and coordinated escape. The technology is proven. The protocols exist. The only missing ingredient is political will and the willingness to spend a fraction of tourism revenue on public safety. Disaster officers outline the steps, designate vertical evacuation sites, clear signage to high ground, integrate hazard education into school curricula, and require emergency plans from every beachfront business. Each measure chips away at the window of vulnerability. The cost is measurable, the benefit incalculable. For every year spent debating budgets, the odds tilt further against the unprepared. A seismologist, voice tight with frustration, lays it out. We know how to monitor. We know how to warn. The risk is not ignorance, it's inaction. The moral choice is clear. Either invest in readiness now, or accept that the next wave will find Palawan, its visitors, and its children exposed, with nowhere to run but hope. The clock is ticking, and nature will not wait for consensus. The Palawan Trench plunges over 5,400 meters beneath the South China Sea, yet remains one of the least monitored subduction zones in Southeast Asia. While the world remembers the devastation caused by the 2004 Indian Ocean and 2011 Tohoku earthquakes, both triggered by similar plate boundaries, no major rupture has ever been recorded here. Scientists confirm the Sunda plate converges at 3 to 4 centimeters per year, silently building stress that has not released in centuries. Despite these facts, monitoring stations remain sparse. Coastal populations grow, and evacuation plans are minimal. The absence of historic catastrophe and limited resource allocation leave critical questions unresolved. How much strain is locked beneath Palawan, and how much warning would residents truly have? As documents and seismological data show, geological processes continue regardless of human attention. The evidence is clear. Ignoring the Palawan Trench does not erase its risk. It only increases the region's vulnerability to disaster.